party, E-I-E-I-O. And at the party he had some gossip, E-I-E-I-O. With some gossip here and some gossip there. Here a gossip, tell a gossip, everybody knows the gossip. Here a yak, there a yak, everywhere a yak, yak, jug, jug here, jug, jug there. Here a jug, there a jug, everywhere a jug, jug. Old Mick Lyons had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. David, you have demonstrated that you are a thespian, and I said you were a linguist, and I would like to make a statement to you that you and only John will understand Du hast ganz gut gemacht. Before we get into the anybody else that wants to speak, Bill McDonald is here with us. Bill? And Bill has done some remarkable things with the family information. It has become unmanageable, and he has written a computer program to make it more manageable, and we would like to hear from you. I'm not sure what you would like to say, but certainly at least tell us the work that you're doing and anything else you would like to say. Bill?
My involvement with this, I should say first, I'm a grandson of Jeremiah Lyons. Jeremiah Lyons is a brother of Will Lyons, an older brother of Will Lyons. Jeremiah Lyons homesteaded at Nunda, South Dakota, and Will Lyons joined him there a few years later. So this is back in that end. Our family has lived at Nunda, pretty much grew up there, and have been in contact with the Will Lyons family over the years, of course. I heard about this occasion here. I was simply delighted. I started, it sounds like a long time, but back in probably 1972, a neighbor lady of ours, Katie Lyons, she lived in Minneapolis, and she was raised around on the second cousin of my mother's. Started talking about all the family history and so on, and we thought it would be really great if we could write a book about Nunda and the Irish and all these things. I should put her in context for you. You've heard about Jerry and Ellen Lyons that came over here from Ireland on the boat and so on. She's a descendant of a brother of that Jerry Lyons, Pat Lyons, who came about the same time or sometimes later, and also lived in Chicago and lived in Iowa and also lived in Nunda. His family continued to live in Nunda. So they're second cousins of my mother's and of Mary Robinson. And these people, they know them well. They know Katie very well. And Katie was really a great inspiration for this, and she had all these tales and her ideas that we should somehow put this together and write it up. Katie has since died. Somebody could figure some way to bring her back for a few weeks, I can tell you that she's badly needed at this time. Failing that, we'll have to blunder on the best we can with what we've got. Our idea then was that we've got to get some family history and find out as much about the family as we possibly can, and on this we can base some sort of an interesting book that we could distribute and would kind of pass the heritage on. And getting into this, we find that there's so much family history that became a project of its own, and there was bits and pieces and scraps of paper and so on everywhere, it seemed like, and I undertook then to try to organize it and to use a computer. I got the computer and then I learned how to use it, and that took some time, and it proceeded sporadically to put it as charitably as possible. But I've done some work since then. The family history itself is of great interest now. I think, and the book is still of interest. The data arises from, of course, things that we've gotten from individual people, many individual people, plus studying. You can get old census reports. 1870 census of Burr Oak, Iowa gives, it's really fascinating to look, because here's the entire Jeremiah Lyons and Will Lyons and everybody else when they were 2 or 3 or 5 or 14 years old, where they came from, and they signed their name there, and you know it's a photostatic copy of the exact census roll that was taken, so you know exactly what it is. You can look at land records, which I've done. I've gone down to Dakota and gone through the courthouse, marriage records, birth records, land records, found out where Jeremiah and Al Lyons bought their farm, and I went and looked at the farm, and when they sold it, and so on and so forth. Newspaper accounts, obituaries, many things. And then became an effort to try to store this stuff in the computer and to write programs that would, in some sense, retrieve it and print it out in some form that would be usable and interesting and so on. So that's kind of what I've been about. And as I say, it's been a sporadic effort. And when I heard about this reunion, even though we're not exactly part of the Will Lyons family, we still were related to you enough that just a golden opportunity to come here and try to get some information and to share what information I had. So I took what I had and gave it to Francis and to Florence Cova, to Mary Robinson and so on, and I've already gotten a bunch of good input. And I thought maybe I could just briefly run over kind of a general outline of what I've been doing, and it's primarily a plea for information, I guess. One of the main outputs of it, there are several outputs, but one is this thing I call a list of individuals. It's organized by generation. I started with the generation back in Ireland, I call them the first generation. This makes Jeremiah and Ellen Lyons and Patrick Lyons, all those people are the second generation. Will Lyons, my grandmother Jeremiah, and all those are the third generation, and so on down the line. Been trying to find out who these people are and get their names in here and so on. I've got, maybe 250 people in here. It barely scratches the surface. I'm in the 6th generation. There's many people I know already in the 7th generation, and I have no doubt there are 8th and perhaps even 9th generation people around. So instead of 250 people, there should be 2,000 in here, I'm sure. And I've got probably another 100 or more names that's just awaiting getting added to the program. So I thought I might just briefly run over how this thing is organized and how it works. It's, as I say, organized by by generation, and the people have an identifying number. And if you look in here, for example, under the 6th generation, you can see it says Lyons Kathleen Elizabeth. And she's in the 6th generation, person number 30. You may not know who Kathleen Elizabeth Lyons is. So with her name, there's a number that says family of origin. And in her case, that's family 56 in the 5th generation. So if you turn back to the 5th generation and look up number 56, you'll find that Kathleen is the daughter of Francis and Rita Lyons. Now, possibly there's somebody in the world that doesn't even know who Francis and Rita Lyons are, but there's an identifying mark. With Francis Lyons also, it says that he came from family 456, and if you look up 456, that's Bill and Mary Lyons. And if you don't know who Bill and Mary Lyons are, of course, it shows what their family of origin is, and it's 3-12, 3rd generation. You look that up with Will and Catherine Lyons. And if you don't know who Will and Catherine Lyons are, there wouldn't be anybody here, but everybody here knows it. But if you didn't, well, you look that up and see what family they came from, and it would turn out to be Jerry and Ellen Lyons. And that's basically the way it works. Take another example, you can look again in the 6th generation, you find Tim Olson. Well, it was Tim Olson. I don't know, but perhaps, but it would say that his family of origin was family 6 in the 5th generation. If you look that up, it would be, just turn back a page, and it would be Harry and Genevieve Olsons. So Tim Olson is the son of Harry and Genevieve Olson. You perhaps don't know who they are either, but it says that Genevieve Olson came from family 4-5. If you look up 4-5, you see it was Mary and John McDonald. If you didn't know them, you look, they came from a certain family. It would refer you back to the 3rd generation, and it would show you Jeremiah and Mary Ann Lyons. And if you didn't know who they were, you look up where he came from, and it would be Jerry and Ellen Lyons. So that's basically the way it works. It's sort of a directory that shows everybody in the family. You can, similar to a big chart, you can trace down anybody that you wanted to and find very quickly where they came from. It's, I feel it's an advantage over such big charts because it's on the computer, it can be updated, it can be corrected very easily, it can be reproduced, you can make many copies of it, you can give 100 copies and give one to everybody, you can keep it like a telephone book. It would be, in a sense, a directory of your relatives, all 2,000 of them. Only an Irishman would want to know. But that is basically what this is. It's very easy to keep up, and all we got to do is keep adding stuff into the computer. It'll keep it forever and spit it out on request, and it'll print these things out in minutes, and it would give as many people as we can put in that tells you who they are and what they are, and we print it out. Another output of it is what I call family histories. They're printed up like this. They've got a cover sheet of Will and Catherine Lyons family, 1887 and on. I take here that the family in this sense is the mother and father and their children. So this is a history about the Will and Catherine Lyons family, which consists of Will and Catherine Lyons and their children. 1887 is when it started. If you look in there, it starts out, it's got stuff about the family, how the family was established, when and where they were married, first if they were married, trying to keep up with the modern where they were married, where they lived, what occupations they had, things about the family. And then it's got data about the father, where he came from, his dates of birth, so on. The mother the same way, place of death, place of burial that they received. Then the number of children, and then it'll list each child and gives this basic information about him or her. And at the end of that, there's a section that's called the narrative section. And in here, there are narrative accounts about that family. Now these they vary from a paragraph or a few lines to pages, and they are an effort to get people to write stuff down about. So in this sense, it's just a collection, it's a scrapbook. These are not written by me, they're written by many, many people. Wherever I can get to write something about your family, I'll put it in here under your family, and then it's part of your family's history. Also, newspaper accounts, obituaries, and so on, are all included in it. So that goes on. It's, the following narrative was prepared by so-and-so, and it tells what they said, and then another narrative by somebody else, or the following narrative is a newspaper account, or whatever it is. And then it closes with a kind of a standard ditty about the family in general, and a plea for information sent in so we can get more. And there's probably a couple dozen of these printed, and probably a couple hundred in the computer we could make for whoever wants it. And the ones that I've printed primarily relate to the older families, of course, that are now gone. The thing that I think the person should remember about this, I've got one here, for example, of the Jer and Mary Ann Lyons